My understanding and everything that I hear is that Russell Wilson isn't just in pole position to be the quarterback, he's going to be the quarterback. So this won't be an attempt to distract or diminish that in any way. But hear me out. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. The Steelers will open rookie minicamp this coming weekend, and it won't be long after that you'll see the veterans in and you'll see the first real signs of whatever steps Wilson and the offense will take under Arthur Smith. And you will also see the first signs of what has to happen for Justin Fields to become relevant again. And I really think that's the appropriate way to put that. He has so much, I don't want to say athletic potential, because he's shown the athletic potential. He's realized the athletic potential. He just has so much athleticism. He can do things on an NFL field that other humans can't do. And he's done them not in some grade F capacity. He's had mixed results. When you have, as he did this past season in Chicago, 20 touchdowns combined against 13 turnovers combined, meaning he had 16 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns. He had 9 interceptions, and he had 4 lost fumbles. The turnovers are going to get, and understandably and rightly, blown up. They just are. If you're a quarterback who hands the ball to the other team in one form or another, that's going to be what labels you almost no matter what you do from a touchdown standpoint. And there are better and fairer examples of this than Jameis Winston, but Winston's always the one that comes to mind for me. He'll have a touchdown for every turnover. And it's been that way for him for years, and it derailed what really should have been, I thought, going back to his college days and coming into the draft, just a brilliant NFL career. But you know what? He's still around. He hung around for quite a while. Josh Allen throws a ton of interceptions. He's still around. Matthew Stafford's thrown a ton of interceptions. He's still around. And I think you're going to see something similar from the longer-term career arc for Fields. Because, again, he can do things that others can't. What's more, he can do things that other quarterbacks, like a Lamar Jackson, have shown can be MVP material. And I mean that in the literal way. MVP as in most valuable player, as in doing something that's really, really valuable for your football team. But what does that look like in 2024? What does it feel like to Fields to come into this process, to come into this scenario, this depth chart, this head coach, this new coordinator, and this quarterback in front of him, Super Bowl winner and Wilson, and say, all right, if I do this, this, and this in Latrobe, I'm giving myself a chance. What would those things be? If I go to the most recent Pittsburgh example of a quarterback having difficulty with interceptions, the principal issue being interceptions, I'm thinking of the same thing you are, and that was when Kenny Pickett got off to a bit of a rough start in that regard. He threw a bunch of them. And what ended up happening? Well, either Tomlin or Matt Canada or both told him, son, every single time you're in trouble, throw the ball into the 12th row. Don't even think about it. Make it souvenir day at Acrisure Stadium. Everybody gets a football. It's like Oprah giving out cars. And sure enough, that's what Kenny did. He actually might have outdone Oprah. There were so many of those. And the result of that, undeniably, one of the results of that was that Kenny stopped throwing interceptions. His interception rate went from being terrifying to, wow, he might never throw another. I mean, that's how drastic that change in approach was. Now, it also might have taken away, some of his gusto, some of his ammo, whatever. But staying with Fields, if you want that to be his priority as a Steeler coming into Pittsburgh, if you want to take away whatever rambunctiousness or recklessness might have caused him to throw those interceptions, you're not pulling that off in Latrobe. There's virtually no chance of pulling that off in Latrobe because you're not making reads. The defense isn't trying to fool you. And the same is true whenever you get into preseason games. So you're not going to see this trait, at least not in any meaningful way. You're not going to be able to get through a camp and a preseason and say, you know what? Fields has really, really changed in this regard. You're not going to have that. The Bills thought they had it. You'll remember 3 years ago when they figured out that Mitch Trubisky could just be fixed. We've de-Chicago'd him because of how he had done in camp and how he had done in a Buffalo preseason game in which he was absolutely brilliant. And if that sounds over the top, go watch a tape of it. He's unbelievable in that game. And then what ends up happening, Mitch gets put into real football games and Mitch throws a bunch of picks again. It's just become part of who he is. It's probably going to be who he is until he's done in the NFL. So what does Fields do? Does Fields just try to wow everybody with his, foot speed and athleticism and the different looks that he can give you as a quarterback as opposed to Wilson, who's now in his mid-30s? I mean, I guess. Does he try to show you that he's making more precise passes on routes that might have given him trouble in Chicago? I mean, I guess. But I just don't see the pathway here. I don't see the way where we would say by the end of August, yeah, this guy looks like he's really ready to challenge for a number one spot, because I don't know that the stage is presented there to him, at least not a realistic one. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Ethan, who in regards to yesterday's episode in which I focused on the future of the Steelers culture, says, DK, who are the culture leaders in the Steelers offensive locker rooms right now? I personally have the opinion that nobody has really been able to step into that role since Ben retired. I hope Russell Wilson can be that leader and hopefully pass the baton to Justin Fields, but are there others who have that role? I'm going to take this a couple of different ways here, Ethan. To start off with, there's no such thing as offensive locker rooms. I think you're referring to the classrooms where they do a lot of their film studies and so forth. Just to be clear, just to share a little something, a little background with you there, not to be nitpicky. The idea that Ben was the leader of the offense over the course of the long tenure that he had in Pittsburgh is going to be a little bit inflated. Ben was obviously the quarterback and as such had certain duties. But I think even Ben would back me on the notion that Marquise Pouncey was more of the offensive leader, that you had other guys along the way in their own styles, a Hines Ward, a Heath Miller, lesser lights like Darius Hayward-Bay, guys that were just, they did a lot of the dirty work behind the scenes to make sure that things were being heated and put into practice. In the current setting, the leader of the offense has to be Russell Wilson. I'm not even going to flinch in the slightest when I say that. He's already shown strong signs, I think, of being that. I've been uplifted by this. When you pick up a guy who's being paid a ton of money to not be with his previous two employers, there's going to be question marks. He has looked, sounded every bit the part of a leader that you'd want out of a quarterback, that you'd need out of a quarterback. I think there are elements of that we've seen from time to time with Najee Harris, and not just whenever he pipes off to, reporters like me or whatever. It's more about with him, just how much he visibly cares, how engaged he is all the time with his teammates. He's not someone who just goes and stands off by himself in a practice setting or in a locker room setting. He's always, always, always communicating. That's a sign of a leader. And I'm going to throw another name in here for you that I would not have thrown in even into the final month of this past season. But I'm a believer now in Isaac Seumalo. What a strange transformation this was, but now totally understandable. He comes here from the Eagles. He comes here from a culture where the Eagles' offensive line was seen as the be-all and end-all, and rightly so, of the Philadelphia offense. He's got Jason Kelce lining up right next to him. He's got all these big names and all this winning that they were doing. And he comes here, and I could tell from talking to him early on that there was a lot there that he wasn't saying. And he was just kind of like that quiet E.F. Hutton type, waiting and waiting and waiting. He gets to the final month of the season, and what do you know? I have people in that room telling me that he's the one standing up in front of them saying stuff, that he's the one that said, hey, we can do this. We can make it. We can get to the playoffs. And I'm thinking, oh, wow. Not since David DeCastro has there been a transformation like that, from somebody going from so quiet to so vocal in such a short period of time. But once you do that, once you've asserted yourself that way, and then you add on to it that Mason Cole, who had been kind of somewhat, at least the loudest by default of that group, is no longer here, that's Isaac's line. That is Isaac's line. I appreciate the question. It's a good one. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow.